Here we are. Hello, everyone, from Giulio.
Marina.
We are talking from hot and sunny Mallorca in this moment, in front of a beautiful seaside. And for this evening free webinar, Living from Yourself. So I want to start from telling you the purpose of this webinar, that is to shift from looking at the outside to our inner happiness to looking inward, inside, to who we are and how we can be more present in the results of our life. And that has to do with authenticity. And so we will talk about how to be more authentic and what it means to be more authentic. And also, we will give some practical advice to how to move towards authenticity, also in a practical way, and not a disruptive way. And we will talk also about the tool of the self-awareness intensive that will take place in Berlin from the 24th to the 28th of July. That is really totally dedicated to finding the truth of who you are, to being more authentic, to know yourself more, but also to then transforming your life in a way that is more authentic. So we name this specific webinar of tonight, Unmasking Yourself. There will be also another one at the end of June and on the 30th of June, that is Change Leadership. In this one here, we will focus more on understanding the importance of authenticity and also what it means to be ourselves in our life. And in the next, also to how to guide change in this direction.
Let's say we propose these webinars as to introduce some topics that are linked to the self-awareness intensive, which brings us to be more authentic. But sometimes we need to understand why is it important to be authentic? What are the benefits of being authentic? Why can't I just pretend to be someone else? Wouldn't that just be so much easier? Where is the book of how I can be? Can I copy from someone else?
Yeah.
It has some costs. So excited to talk about these things that are around this topic of being authentic. It's something that we hear a lot, the importance being authentic, and these masks that we put on, where are they? Where can I find this mask? How do I take it off?
And even starting realizing that we have sometimes masks and that sometimes we're not being authentic and it's not so immediate to being able to discriminate when we are talking from ourselves, for example, or when we have an inner critic or an inner parent or I don't know who teacher who is talking with our voice or acting in our body. So we we decided to call Live from Yourself this cycle of webinars because that's really what it is about, shifting the weight from what we achieve in life to if what we are pursuing is coming from us. This is a basic question. Are we judging, deciding, acting from who we are or independently from success and failures? Society actually is very unbalanced on this point. So if I don't know if you agree with me, but society is very focused on results, achievements, possession. So there is the assumption and the expectation that people who achieve or have more are happier than those who achieve less or have less.
Is this true though?
Not is not completely untrue, but it's not completely true. And it's not the real point, it's not the focus. I wanted to start by bringing some data to address this element. So to see objectively from psychological studies how happiness and achievements are linked. For example, there's a 2010 study that discovered that the emotional well-being of a person has a kind of plateau, at least in the United States, that is around, considering the monetary element, is around $35,000 per year. So until that plateau, until that level, yes, the more the income was increasing and the happier the person tended to be. There was a link, a connection between the two. But after that, it stopped.
Until 75.
Until 75,000,
There was like an increase where the more
the two lines were going together. After that, there wasn't a connection anymore. So maybe for some it continued to go together, for someone not. So in average, the connection stopped there. So we can assume that 75,000 is an amount that covers the anxiety for survival and maybe the basic needs, the basic, I don't know, the house mortgage or paying for, I don't know, for the school for the kids and cars and all that stuff, practical stuff in life. So it's not that there isn't any connection, but it's only limited to that. And also, there is still a connection also after that, but only for people who value money very much. So then it's the focus is on values and not on the income. And also, there's another research, another interesting research that links achievement to happiness in the sense that achieving a goal, a practical goal, in, for example, having a degree or a promotion in work or finding a relationship or any goal, boosts our happiness. That 90% of the initial boost only lasts 3 months.
So after 3 months, you need to achieve something else, or
Yeah.
you're no longer
After
happy.
3 months, the achievement is no longer connected to happiness. There's like a burst of happiness, but then it's not there anymore. And we can experience this. We experience that many times. That we think that some goal will give us happiness, but then when we get there, we need something else. It's like when you walk in the mountains or in the hills, that you reach the top and then you're there, but you're already looking at another hilltop. Instead, there is a stronger correlation with intrinsic goals. When we are pursuing or achieving goals that are intrinsic, so that are connected to what is really important for us, be it in personal growth, in relationship, in meaning. So that has a stronger connection with happiness, and rather than extrinsic goals like money, status, or image. So this is quite interesting data. So the real deal is to find this intrinsic value and a meaningful purpose in life. But in order to do that, we need to go towards authenticity. We could define authenticity by saying that it is the alignment between our inner self and the external expression, living in a way that is consistent with your values, beliefs, and emotional truth.
To being more myself,
Yeah.
being more what actually I feel inside that is aligned with me, and bringing it outside, showing it to people. Because if I know that and my person keep it inside, there is a part that I'm not showing, that I'm not being authentic.
And also about this, there are many studies, but I won't be giving you the data to not bore you. But this is proven that the more a person, the authenticity of a person is measured, and the more there is a connection with happiness.
Let's say that what we work on the intensive is working towards finding our authenticity. And here is how finding our authenticity translates to quality of life, into happiness.
As we said in the introduction, being ourselves is a hard work. It doesn't always come easy, especially in this society that, as we mentioned, don't put the focus of the person in the intrinsic values, intrinsic goals, but it gives us the expectation that we have to look outwards. That there is a way to be that is the right way to be. That there is a way, an amount of things to have and of goals to have that leads us to be a good person or a happy person, etc., etc. And also, this indirectly pushes us to achieve these things, whatever it costs. I don't know, and I don't know about you, but in Italian schools, for example, it's very common to copy from your classmates. We even were organizing who was doing the research and then letting all other students copy. But this is very unreasonable if you think about it, because it prevents the real purpose, that is to learn. So the goal shifted from learning to, and maybe learning about things that interested you, to devote. And this is a metaphor, I think, of how we tend to live. Also because school system tends to form us in a way.
Shapes us that the important thing is having a high score on our exam, and that you just need to memorize some stuff and to have that high score, that result, instead of the importance of what we're actually learning.
Yeah. Does it happen also but you went to international school, so maybe it's
Yes, but it's still yes, it's because there's that effort, no, that effort in having to learn, and that what's valued is not so much if you have understood what the subject is about, but more that result of did you get what number you got on the exam.
And probably it's also the same mindset that pushes athletes to cheat in competition, like to use doping or find other ways to cheat.
But surely there are some costs, no, to not being authentic.
You saw the physical cost in this case, but the cost is mainly that then you lose the real goal, that is being authentic, and, and that is finding what is really important for you. So we can find several, at least 4 elements to authenticity. The first is self-awareness. So knowing your values, your motives, your emotions, and your identity. And also being able to objectively evaluate your strengths and weaknesses without denial or distortion. And this also is not easy because biases exist. Also, the way our brain works, our brain looks for the easiest way to tries to save energy. So we are prone to incurring biases that are shortcuts in the perception of reality. For example, we judge more kindly, lightly those who are more similar to us, or we give more importance to the things that we already know or that agree with our previous opinions. These are our biases. So it's not easy to be objective, even in evaluating our strengths and weaknesses. Then there is behavioral congruence, acting in alignment with our inner values and beliefs. One thing is knowing our values and beliefs, and another is acting in alignment with them, even under social pressure.
It can be challenging. Let's say, I know that one of my values is being true, and it's being always honest. But then, under social pressure, when I want to maybe impress someone, maybe someone that I like, or a friend that I want to make them closer, sometimes I can't control that. And maybe I say something that is not completely authentic. But yeah, there is that social pressure to want to that the other one likes me. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Congruent.
That fantastic experiment in which there was a bunch of people in a waiting room, but they were all actors beside one. And when a kind of bell rang, everybody stood up without any reason for that, without giving any reason. And the unaware lady instead, in the beginning, remained seated, and then she started standing up too. And then all the people went inside. It was like a waiting room for a visit. All the people went to do the visit, and new people arrived. And the new people were all unaware. They weren't actors. And so in the end, there were only new people, but they picked up this senseless habit of standing up when the bell rang. It's not easy to go against the majority, to be different from what we see around us.
Or maybe what we see around us is so strong, no? Like when there's like waves of trends, maybe on social media. Here there was this thing on social media that everyone went to the supermarket and for some reason they put a pineapple in their trolley, and this meant that they were looking for a partner. And it was a trend, and then everyone started doing it, even though it's something that is really absurd. But the fact that some people start to do it, we pick up trends. And it's not because it's what we normally do. Just to say how easy it is as humans to pick up things that are pointless sometimes, or have a mysterious purpose behind it.
Also, there was this kind of trend that lasted for 1 hour. I don't see it anymore. That they were asking people, how many times do you think about the Roman Empire? It's an absurd question. But then people started answering, yeah, once a week. And probably people started thinking about the Roman Empire.
How much, this is to say, like, how much the society, how much the things that are around us influence our level of authenticity, how much we stick to our values or what we want to do.
Then the fourth point is a relational openness, being honest and transparent in relationships, letting other people see the real you. So all these four elements constitute how much we can be authentic. And an interesting thing is that even in our brain, in the studies in neuroscience, prove that being authentic activates the reward and self-processing region of the brain. So we reward ourselves when we are being authentic. We feel good. We release hormones in the brain that makes us happier. So on a chemical level. And also of course the opposite is true. So when we are not being completely ourselves, when we are denying one of the 4 points, so when we don't know what our values, motives, and emotions and identity is, when when we are not able to evaluate ourselves honestly and objectively, when we don't act in accordance with our values, and when we're not being open, then we also release chemicals and we activate areas of the brain that weigh on us, that make us that make us consume energy, make us less happy.
I'd say that this is for sure something that I feel during the intensive, where because we are towards being to both communicating the truth that is in the present moment. Yes, it's hard in the beginning, but start to get the hang of it. It feels so good to be authentic. It feels so light to say what actually is happening in the present moment, what is going on emotionally, and how hard it is to then do this in real life. And how much, let's say, that the intensive training, this being authentic, helped me to be more authentic in my real in the day-to-day. So yeah, I support this. I confirm this with my own experience.
Yeah. Bottom line is that in order to be happy, we have to follow our intrinsic motivations and values. But it's not that simple, is it? Because many times we are confused.
I see.
We would like to start with an interactive thing, a little questionnaire that you can do by yourself. You don't need to share. It will take a few minutes. So Marina will ask you some questions and we can copy them in the chat, and you can just take some minutes to answer these questions.
Also see what these questions move inside of you. Yes, the question that we give, and then sometimes how we feel by giving the answer to these questions. So the first question is, what are the 3 qualities you value most in others? This is the first question. For example, honesty, or wait a second, I don't see it. Honesty, creativity, kindness. Okay. What are the 3 qualities you value the most in others?
So take a few seconds to answer this.
I'll think about my 3 qualities too.
So if you have them, do something, wave your hand or put a reaction.
Are you looking for your 3 qualities that you value the most in others? Vale.
For example, clarity or kindness, being available,
Being on time.
being on time, being true.
Sí.
Okay, can we have your reaction? Did you write down the 3? Do you need more time?
They are in the chat, so they can
Okay.
think about them. Then the next question is, in the last week, when did you express, as you said, yes, okay. In the last week, when did you express these same qualities to yourself? It can be yes, frequently, sometimes, or rarely. So for each of these 3 values, when did you express these qualities yourself? Because the first question, it asks us about others. What are the 3 qualities you value the most in others? And now we are asking, in the last week, when did you express them yourself?
Give you also here a minute. Okay, ready for the
Yes.
third?
Let's go with the third one. Now is think of a recent situation where you said yes, but you wanted to say no. And then what stopped you? Your beliefs, your thoughts, or some keywords. So the fact that you wanted to say no, what stopped you from saying your authentic no, but you said yes instead? Was it because of the relationship, you wanted to help the other person, or you weren't sure of what was real to you? Why?
This is an example, yes and no. It could be also another thing. Maybe you wanted to say something, but you said it differently.
Not
So
completely honest.
you left some things out. Copy. Let me copy this on the.
Maybe it's also the opposite, no? When was a moment where you wanted to say no and you said yes?
Yes, of course.
See. Mm.
So do you have it?
Mm.
30 more seconds.
Was it?
Okay.
Good.
Fourth question.
Fourth question. In which area of life do you feel most yourself? I'm going to put it here in the chat. We have work, friendships, family, or when you are alone. Here you go. In which area of life do you feel most yourself? And here we said.
Can we
So
choose more?
exactly. There are more
Okay.
areas. You can add your own area.
Okay.
You
Okay.
can also say from 1 to 5, how much do you feel most yourself? Sometimes if we are don't if we're we
Okay.
struggle to find which one the most, we can put them a number. So from 1 to 5, how much do you feel most yourself at work? How much do you feel yourself with friends, with your family, alone?
So they could be all one, or they could be all five.
Or some more than others. It's easy to be myself, maybe with friends, and at work, it's a bit more difficult, or the other way around. Did you find another area, Fabiana, that you wanted to name?
No, I didn't think. I think they are exhaustive. Yes.
Let's see. Okay, give you 20 more seconds.
Maybe another we can put areas like sport or hobbies, different.
Yeah.
Other can be hobbies. Yes.
Okay, let's go with the fifth question. I'll put it here in the chat. And it's what's something about you that you rarely show others, but wish you could? For example, a passion or a vulnerability or a point of view. Something about you, but that for some reason you rarely show to others, but wish that you could.
For those who are connecting now, you can see in the chat a questionnaire that we're asking. You can answer to.
And these questions might also start to move our belly, where we feel, oh, yes, this really makes me touch something of me that I wish I would share more and that I want to share. Maybe I've worked on it for so long. Why is it that it's hard to be authentic in this area? I wanted to open.
Many things open in my computer.
Last 20 seconds to answer this fifth question. Okay.
Last question.
Last question. If a close friend followed you for a week, would they say your actions match your values?
Followed you everywhere.
If they saw you, imagine they have seen every single thing
A stalking friend.
that you've done, would they say that your actions matched your values? Here, of course, you have to know what your values are.
At least the first three we mentioned here in the questionnaire.
Okay. Thank you, Fabiana.
So how did it go? Did you find in your answers anything that surprised you? Where do you feel most aligned or most off track in your authenticity? It's interesting to start by asking ourselves what we value in others. So what is important in others, because if it is important, we want to see those behaviors and values in others, then it means that they are important for us. But then not always they mirror our own behavior. Was there any surprise in your answers that you want to share? Of course, you can also just keep it for yourself.
What surprised you?
Or where did you find more alignment, more authenticity, for example, in the areas, work, friendship, family, alone, or where you found that there is more distance between how you feel you are and your behavior?
Go ahead, Fabiana. I saw you.
Yes, personally, I feel really myself in family and alone because I don't have any refrain. And I know that people accept me how I am. So I can be kind. This is what I put: kindness, coolness, smiling. So, but okay, of course, in family, you can also cry if you need. These are the things that I really love in others: to be clean, to be honest, to be really kind, open, smiling. And I think this is very important because a smile is it mirrors. Being kind, if it mirrors on you, because if the other person is kind, you will be as well.
Mm.
So this is, I think, is very an important link. What we look in the others, if we find, probably we will soon be the same because we
And did
cannot
you,
repay with the
yeah,
opposite.
did you find areas in which you don't find in yourself what you look in the others?
Yeah, maybe the coolness. I don't find it in myself.
The-
While coolness, being fresh,
Okay.
is something that I really love in others because it brings me joy. And it's something that I am not able to express because maybe I have it when I am alone, but I'm not able to express it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know it's in me, but it doesn't come out. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you for the sharing.
Thank you.
welcome.
This this simple questionnaire only proves the point that it's not so immediate to be authentic. It's not always immediate to know what is important for us, what it is to be us. For example, in a decision, it happens. It often happens that we are just confused. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we should choose. It already might be hard to know ourselves and expressing it in reality, but sometimes we don't even know. So why sometimes are we not being authentic? Or willingly because we know how we would express ourselves, but we don't do it for some reason, or unwillingly because we are not being authentic, but we don't even know we're not. We are putting on masks. Why do we do that? We introduced that a little bit in the introduction we did on Instagram. And there are many reasons. As we said, society values results and achievements more than inner coherence. So sometimes we try to be right, try to look for the way in which we can blend with the majority, or just be accepted, be the right person, achieve the right things. And we feel that if we are ourselves, we won't do that.
We won't achieve these
We won't
things.
achieve this thing. Or maybe if we, for example, love art, but then we see that art is unpractical, it's hard to live on art. We might disregard that career path in pursuing another one, or in relationship. If we have a certain sensitivity, we might believe it's not winning to be a sensitive person or to be a smiling person or to be a person that who doesn't critique others. And we believe that we have to be in a way that is not authentic. So we put on masks. What were the main masks you were putting on, Marina?
Many. Let's say that one was for sure that mask that I learned from quite a young age of wanting to please others, where to fit in, maybe I saw that being myself wasn't completely accepted. So I quickly adapted even the way I talk. One of the masks I put on is changing the way I talk to be more similar to the others, because sometimes it's that difference when I perceive a difference between me and the other person that it maybe creates a perceived barrier, and then trying to be more similar to the other, I feel more accepted. But in this being more similar to the other, I'm putting a mask. I'm not being completely myself. And this consumes a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, for example, one of the things it was more difficult for me, it was to be in a company of people where, for example, they were seeing someone or having a certain attitude or talking about certain topics. And for example, to blend in, I would also embrace this critiquing, especially when I was a teenager. So being mean to other people in words or pretending to be interested in certain topics, typically cars and football. No, I never pretended to be interested in cars and football, but other topic, yes.
I think many people will relate to this.
Yes. So it's all ways that you actually sometimes realize afterwards. So hello to who is connecting now. Sometimes some people and sometimes in life, in some moments in life, we are painfully conscious that we are not being authentic in certain situations. In other people and other moments in life, we don't recognize it immediately, but we can see the effects. Because as we said before, when we are not living from ourselves, deciding from ourselves, talking from ourselves, walking, acting from ourselves, there are two things that we may recognize. Lower energy in our body, in our mind, and lower sense of purpose and meaning, and in the end, lower happiness. In some occasions, and for some people, we might not be conscious that we are not being authentic, but we can see these symptoms. So, are we always tired? Are we always bored? Or often bored? Do we often feel that what we do doesn't have an intrinsic value? That
It comes from within.
Yeah, that it doesn't really feed us. Even when we achieve results, or it's not really connected to something deep into ourselves.
Or it's not something that you have chosen. If we are following something that someone else has chosen for us and we thought that was the path to pursue, if we haven't chosen it ourselves, if we're not authentic to what we really would want to be doing, that drains so much.
And there are many reasons why we put on masks, especially many of them have to do with our personal history, our education, for example. When we were younger, when we were little, and so we also had less resources to defend ourselves or to explain our reasons. If we've been put off, critiqued, told off too harshly when we were expressing in a certain way or when we were expressing certain topics. If we experience exclusion in certain contexts, painfully being excluded in certain contexts for being in a certain way, all these, or if there is sometimes we really need for our survival to get a certain thing, a degree or an approval from a person. So if the price of being true is too high and unacceptably high, because maybe it would affect our survival or our family survival. All these could be good reasons why we put on masks, but this has a cost. And also, then it gets into a circle. Now, this is a tip I want to give you to understand how to proceed towards a better authenticity. So authenticity is a self-reinforcing process, because when we start expressing more, knowing more our values, our needs, our emotions, and we start expressing them more, we start being more coherent in some parts of our life, this releases self-energy. This releases energy. This means that we are also more clear, and we are more resilient. We are more able to sustain, for example, the costs of being true. And this then can be reinvested in, again, expressing more truth. It takes, to be authentic, requires taking some authenticity risks at first, because we closed up and we started being confused as a consequence of not expressing and not living from ourselves. And this lowered our energy. Having a lower energy, we also have less energy to face the consequences of failures, of being rejected, of having the fear of being excluded. But we have to break this circle. So there's a vicious cycle that's going on, or that could be going on, when we feel that we are stuck in not being authentic, or we don't have the resources to invest in knowing ourselves more, knowing our values more. But if we start doing that, if we start taking some risks of authenticity, we will release self-energy, and we will have more resources than to try more to be authentic.
Be an example of these risks.
For example, if there was a message you have been withholding for a long time to communicate to your partner or to a friend, if you take the chance, of course, having all the care in the world to not be hurtful in how you express this truth. It might be an uncomfortable truth, for example, but then you take the risk and you say it in a caring way, that will release self-energy. If you, for example, I remember, I can give this personal example. There was a girl I liked many years ago, and I was an introvert. I was quite shy as a teenager, and I found the strength to express it to her, and she rejected me. She said that she wasn't interested in me. But despite the fact that the result didn't go as I wanted, there was a release of self-energy. I was proud of myself. I could feel that my world was larger after having been true. And this can be applied to be more true in how we express our emotion in all the fields in life. It releases self-energy. You can test that.
And this is for sure, if I can say it, something that happens during the intensive,
Yeah, that's very
at an
clear.
extreme level, where because we are true one after the other, one diet after another for a really, it's the only thing we have to do. Be true to what is happening in each moment. It's something that I say I've experienced, saying some truth that it emerges. No, I want to say something that, and there's that part that is like contradicting, saying, how are you going to say this? No, maybe the other person might judge me by what I actually need to say. And having this courage, as you were explaining, to say this truth afterwards is is that because there was also a lot of energy being used to retain that truth of not expressing it, that is like keeping it down. And then when I finally say it, it's like this huge release of energy that then we can put into something else.
And it's also contagious. So when someone breaks the ice, when someone starts being more true, you can also see it, for example, in a work group. When someone starts being more true, especially we also the need also to be some conditions in being true. It means being true but also respectful, not being true in a hurtful way, because that doesn't release, well, maybe in a way it releases some energy, but in a way it also takes away some energy. When we hurt other people, we are hurting also ourselves, so it balances. You don't see the effect. But if you are trying to be true and respectful, constructive in your expression, and caring for your needs, and but also the needs of others, then you can see this release of truth. And at the intensive, this happens, the release of energy. At the intensity, there is a huge curve that points towards a lot of energy while you proceed, and while people start trusting themselves to be more true. So if we understood that it is important to be authentic, and that it is a process, we need to invest in it. It doesn't happen spontaneously. It's a hard work being ourselves. Where do we have to look for our authenticity? There are some points we can look. For example, our needs. We are all unique.
With capital letters.
Yes. We all have different needs, and we all have different ways of that we need on how we need our needs to be satisfied.
And I say we could make a whole webinar on only this.
Yes. Bodily needs, starting from when we go to bed to when we wake up, how much we can stay, for example, in a crowded environment, how much we can be exposed to many stimuli. So
the needs of what we eat,
yeah,
requirements.
So what it means to be more true in our needs, in accepting our needs first, because sometimes we don't even accept them, or we believe that we shouldn't have these needs, and expressing them. And another area is the expression of emotions, in our emotions, and how we need to be received with our emotions. For example, some people need to be able to be quiet in their expression of emotions. They are delicate in expressing their emotions. Some people need to be able to be passionate in expressing their emotions, explosive, to be able to cry. Sometimes crying for some people, it's a way of regulating themselves. Something.
About this.
Yeah. Not being able, not feeling that we can cry, for example, not for everybody, for some people, really can block our self-regulation.
Say that everyone has different ways of expressing their need to be emotional.
Yeah. And also we have needs about our emotional expression on how we need to be received. For example, some people need to be hugged. Some people need to be just listened to. Some people need to be given advice. Some people need only to be seen, and that the other doesn't put anything, it doesn't add anything to their expression. So we have to experiment. We have to understand, accept, and then try to express more in this area. And then there's the area of the values. What are the things that are really important for us? And sometimes we judge our values because maybe they are different from our friends. Maybe for us, family is very important, and we are all with all friends that don't want kids, and for whom sport is very important, or vice versa. But we can't cheat ourselves. If something is important for us, it is important. So we have the first step again is learning, knowing, exploring ourselves, admitting, and then expressing. Then we have also character traits. Sorry, there's a dog that jumped the fence and entered into our garden. There's character traits. We are all different also in our character traits. Some people are shy, some are extrovert, introvert. And there is a way in which we can respect our character traits and also be successful and also be true. That we can be in a work environment with our character traits, so that we can be sellers with our character traits without always trying to be different, always trying to embrace a model that doesn't fit us, our character traits.
And then this consumes so much energy.
Yeah, it doesn't work in the end. It doesn't work.
Painful.
Yeah, you result fake to the people who.
And then when we are aligned with our character traits, or we show them, there's also that release of energy.
Yeah. So when you have more energy, as I said, you are more resilient. So you are more determined. You can withstand failures more. If you are more creative, you are more charismatic also. There is a lot of strength in weakness, a lot of strength in vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, in showing vulnerability. And then there also is the area of your skills, because there are some things that come easy to you, or that you have trained in your education, and some things that are really hard for you, that you're not very good at. For example, some is very good in mathematics, some other not, or in linguistics, and some other not. There are the 9 intelligences that Howard Gardner pointed out. And there's, for example, emotional intelligence, there's musical intelligence, there's kinetic, kinesthetic intelligence, and intelligence in the body. We are going at the gym, at the yoga shala, where there's a teacher here in Mallorca. that is a genius as a body intelligence. She knows where to put her hands and adjust you in the right amount. And that's really some innate qualities. Then you can train them also. But what happens? Sometimes we judge our skills. So we invest a lot in the things we're not good at. And we disregard some skills that we have. We don't give enough energy to them. And we don't invest in improving them. And this is not a good strategy.
And we think this I'm good at, I'm not going to put a lot of energy in it because I'm good at it. And something that I'm not good at, I think, oh, I really need to study this thing because I'm not good at it. Whereas it would be so much wiser to say, this that I'm good at, let's invest a lot of energy there and make it grow.
Yeah.
And something that I'm not naturally so good at, maybe find a collaborator that can do that for me or that can work on it.
So if you see that if we expand a little bit on authenticity, it's a very wide area, a very wide theme. It requires a lot of investment and work. And the self-awareness intensive is a tool that we have that is totally dedicated to knowing yourself, knowing yourself deeply, and also freeing that self-energy that then we can invest in expressing who we are and who we discover to be in our life goals. And a lot of the work in the intensive is, and a lot of the results depend on the fact that we create a safe environment. We create an environment in which people gradually can start being more true, expressing the things that usually we don't express. There is a technique, a structural way of communicating. This way of communicating prevents hurting ourselves inadvertently. Sometimes we are like elephants in a crystal boutique. We tread very heavily, and even if we don't want, even if we meet, we give a command to someone that another person said, and the person shuts down and closes up. So there's this structured way of communicating that prevents these incidents. And then there is a technique of self-inquiry in which we point the attention inward, and we do that intensively. That's why it's called self-awareness intensive. It lasts 4 days. It's from the 24th to the 28th of July. It will be located in Berlin. And in 3 of these 4 days, because there are 3 days of meditation retreat, we could say, meditation on who we are, in discovering the truth of ourselves, our authenticity, and a day of integration to bring all that into our actual life, into our personality. All that self-energy to convey it in projects and in our values, realizing our values. In these days, there will be no distraction. There will be no other purpose. We will really focus on just one thing: knowing ourselves, being true.
Being authentic.
Being authentic. For this, for example, there is no personal communication outside of the technique of the intensive. So we don't have any distraction. When there are pauses or lunch or walks or work, there are several different moments in which we do different things. We are silent and we are doing the process within of self-inquiry. And then there are moments in which we communicate to each other there to express what was the discovery of going into ourselves, in focusing deeply the attention on ourselves and expressing it to the others. And this sharing is also very important. It makes the difference. There are other types of retreats that always train you to point the attention on yourself and stay in the presence of yourself also. But they don't have the sharing with this regulated communication. The sharing is what integrates these unexpressed emotions, beliefs, and also allow us to de-identify from these beliefs, because there's a ton of beliefs, judgments, burdens that we carry that we don't even know that we have, that we are maybe strongly identified with. There's a tip of the iceberg that we see, but there's the huge block under the surface that we don't see.
And it's going deeper within us, being more and more authentic with each exercise, with each diet, with each communication that we do. We bring it out and we give it to the other person in a way. And this is what frees us. The fact that
Yeah.
we bring it outside, communicating it, not just to ourselves or to the air, but to someone else, to another
Yeah.
conscious being, is what really makes the difference, is what really
Yeah.
makes this awareness, self-awareness intensive, unique and powerful. The fact that we work with other people, because in life we are with other people. We are all the time in relationships with our family, with friends, at work, in the supermarket, no? So it's what also makes it so powerful, the fact that then in life we are also in people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
bringing how this structure of the intensive helps us to be more aware, working with people, and that it's very closely linked to life in a way.
Yeah. And it releases when we share and says something that we have shared is received, it releases space in the mind. The mind frees.
Yeah.
And there are moments in the intensive in which you can experience the quiet of the mind, the silence, the total silence of the mind.
It's really possible.
It is. You have experienced it. She's making a question.
Yes, yeah, it's possible
Yeah.
to experience a quiet mind.
And also to directly experience the truth of yourself. What happens when you let go of all the identifications, of all the beliefs, of all the mask and emotions, all the things that you believe that you are. If you let go all of that, what remains? And it's a very unexplainable sensation and experience to get in contact directly with the truth of yourself, with the who that you are, not with the what that you can temporarily be, despite it might be more or less authentic, but to be completely present in who you are. That's really precious. That is having then putting some very strong foundation in your authenticity. And it makes the difference in all the future experiences in your life because you tasted the essence of what it is to be you. And it will be easier then to understand when you are getting apart from that and easier to go back to it.
There's no going back.
Yeah, there's no way. You cannot unknow who you are once you know who you are.
See, at least it's knowing that part is there.
Yeah.
You can close your eyes, no, after having this direct experience of who you are. After, when you go back, when I go back in life, I know that part is there. It's not gonna go anywhere.
And there might be also fears connected to this, to what if what I discover of myself is something I don't like? But all these fears and judgments, first, they are part of the risks we need to take. As I said, it requires taking some risks going towards authenticity. But then these fear are more connected to what the judgment that we have. Being ourselves is the root of our happiness, and not being ourselves, whatever it is, being ourselves. And not being ourselves is the root to our unhappiness. So there is no way around this.
Say that in essence, it all takes us to being more authentic, to being more ourselves, and how much this translates to lightness, having more energy, clarity of our values, clarity of our purpose. This is the whole direction of the awareness, the self-awareness intensive.
And in the end, all of this will also translate in achievements
Of course.
and in results because you will have more energy, you will have more resilience, you will have more clarity, more creativity, more charisma. And this, in the end, also will all go towards achievements, but achievements in an area that is really meaningful for you, that is connected to your life purpose.
And knowing more who I am and showing it then in my life will attract other people that are aligned with my values and with my purpose. But first I need to find it and find this courage to bring it out.
Okay, I would like to leave some space for, we said a lot of things. I hope that these things were both interesting and useful. I would like to leave some space for your questions and also invite all of you to be present on the 30th of June to the next free webinar, Change Leadership. So how to start this process of change toward authenticity, but also how to bring authenticity into maybe some ongoing changes, because it might be a moment in your life in which you are taking decisions, in which you are changing, you're shifting some phase, for example, in your study career, in your work career, in your relationships. So how to bring more authenticity into your change.
Maybe we can also close the part of the webinar and the registration before going to the questions.
Yes, that was the attempt. If you haven't already, you can register to the 30th new free webinar.
And then if what you have heard about the self-awareness intensive has brought some curiosity, some wanting to participate to this experience, to this 4-day retreat, then contact julioselfawarenessintensive.com. There you will find all the information and be sure to ask the questions.
No, it's not selfawarenessintensive.com.
Oh, sorry, I make that up. I wanted to say the name of the website.
It's you can look up the page of the self-awareness intensive in our website, which is www.awareness-inspiration.com.
I wanted to say that. Awareness inspiration.
Maybe there's someone with selfawarenessintensive.com and gets all all the fruit of our work.
Redirecting.
Okay, but if you have questions, we will be glad to answer them, both now at the end of the conference or also privately. So feel free to write us. So did we stimulate some reflections? First of all, how is your... Okay, so we now are going to stop the recording. Then it can be also more in an intimate setting. So stop the recording. Bye bye to everybody who's watching the recording.